complaint of a palace maid.
Cung Oán Ngâm Khúc.
Nguyen Gia Thieu.
Nguyễn Gia Thiều.
The golden wind, through the cinnamon walls, blew sadly.
Trải vách quế, gió vàng hiu hắt.
My feathered suit had become cold like copper.
Mảnh vụ y, lạnh ngắt như đồng.
Oh heaven, why did you want to hurt me, a royal hostess?
Quán chi những khách tiêu phòng.
By reserving an ungrateful fate for my rosy cheeks.
Mà xui phận bạc, nằm trong má đào.
Why has my destiny, so happy at first, turned into a life of misfortune?
Duyên đã mai, cửa sau lại rủi.
I thought of the cause. How could I accept it?
Nghĩ nguồn cơn, dở dói sau đang.
What were the causes of our halfway troubles?
Vì đâu nên nỗi dở dang.
The more I think about my fate, the more I deplore it.
Nghĩ mình lại, thêm thương nỗi mình.
I remembered when I was barely of age.
Trộm nhớ thùa, gây hình tạo hóa.
My complexion had then the radiance of a fresh hibiscus flower.
Vẻ phù dung, một đóa khoe tươi.
And my flower bud was ready to open and smile.
Ngụy hoa chưa mỉm miệng cười.
My beauty would have faded the brilliance of a piece of brocade woven by Nangtu.
Gấm nàng ban đã, nhạt mùi thu dung.
Then my cheeks of blossoming peach panicked a multitude of lovers.
Áng đào kiển, đâm bông não chúng.
Clear as the autumn waters, my eyes cast glances capable of knocking down the city walls.
Khóe thu ba, rợn sóng khuynh thành.
When my shadow played behind the blind on the mirror brilliant.
Bóng gươm lấp loáng dưới mành.
Even the plants wanted passionate rain and clouds.
Cỏ cây cũng muốn, nổi tình mây mưa.
Fish stunned by my beauty plunged to the bottom of the sea.
Chìm đáy nước, cá lờ đờ lặn.
Dazed crans let themselves fall from the sky.
Lửng ra trời, nhãn ngẩn ngơ xa.
My incomparable grace was intoxicating both the moon and the flowers.
Hương trời đám nguyệt say hoa.
Even beautiful Tayfi lost her soul and Hangar were overwhelmed.
Tây thi mất vía, Hằng Nga giật mình.
My flowery poetry surpassed famous poetry.
Câu cẩm tú, đàn anh họ Lý.
And my painting was the level of famous painter V. Ng.
Nét đan thanh, bậc chỉ tràng vương.
Who could match me as a divine chess player and ambrosia drinker?
Cờ tiên diệu thành ai đang.
Only Law Lynn and Dithich could have been my chess and wine-sipping partners.
Lưu Linh, Đế Thích, là làng tri âm.
Playing the lute at night, I competed with famous lute player Tamar.
Cầm điếm nguyệt, phỏng tầm tư mã.
And in poetry I almost equaled Thieu, who composed the poem Verses on a Tower in Autumn.
Địch lầu thu, đo gã tiêu lang.
When my hands danced and I hummed a poem.
Dẫu mà tay múa miệng sang.
The moon fairies were forced to turn around to see me in their brilliant skirts unfurled in the moon.
Thiên tiên cũng ngảnh, nghe thường trong trăng.
The fame of my beauty and talent had resounded throughout the kingdom.
Tài sắc đã, vang lừng trong nước.
Butterflies and bees made a loud noise out of the veranda.
Bướm ong càng, sao xác ngoài hiên.
They knew my fame, but had never seen me.
Tai nghe nhưng mắt chưa nhìn.
Despite this, Te Tuan's lustful illness rose in them with intensity.
Bệnh tề tuyên đã nổi lên đùng đùng.
But springtime flower still closed in its bud.
Hoa xuân nở, còn phong nộn nhụy.
And the autumn moon yonder not yet opened its door of cool light.
Nguyệt thu kia chưa hé hẳn quang.
The pink court was still locked with a dewy bar.
Hồng lâu còn khóa then xương.
And my perfume capable of knocking down castle walls remained hidden in its deep bedroom.
Thâm khuê còn giấm, mùi hương khuynh thành.
Archers were preparing to shoot their arrows at contest sparrow paintings.
Làng cung kiếm, dấp danh bắn xẻ.
Nobles anxiously aspired to glimpse my legendary star.
Khách công hầu, gấm ghé mong sao.
But the fenced spring garden was still closed to butterflies.
Vườn xuân bướm hãy còn rào.
They saw me, the flower, but there was no path for the butterflies to search for my perfume.
Thấy hoa mà chẳng, lối vào tìm hương.
Although not stone, their resolve was unshakable.
Gan chẳng đá, khôn đường há chuyển.
But how could it be easy for those common faces to reach my heavenly cave?
Mặt phàm kia, dễ đến thiên thai.
How could my heavenly perfume be touched by the dust of this world?
Hương trời xả động trần ai.
And even 1,000 ounces of gold would not have paid for one of my smiles.
Dẫu vàng nghìn lạng, dễ cười một khi.
I reflect on the things of life and wonder how I came to my present situation.
Ngẫm nhân sự, cớ chi ra thế.
How has a red thread so easily tied my feet?
Sợi xích thẳng, chi để vương chân.
With my forehead resting on my arm,
Vắt tay nằm nghĩ cơ trần.
I would like to sprinkle my heart with willow water to extinguish the fires of love.
Nước dương muốn giải, nguội dần lửa duyên.
Events of this world follow by like the images of a dream.
Kiệt thế cụp, như in giấc mộng.
The celestial machine walks or stops according to impenetrable laws.
Máy huyền vi, mở đóng khôi lường.
The most common acts, such as eating and drinking,
Vẻ chi ăn uống sự thường.
are, like so many other things, fixed in advance. Is it not curious?
Cũng còn tiền định. Khá thương, lọ là.
Look at these people who are exhausting themselves in vain.
Đòi những kẻ. Thiên ma bách chiết.
They still have a human appearance, but their hearts are dead.
Hình thì còn. Bụng chết đòi nau.
Should we be surprised then that just after we're born and our navel is buried,
Thảo nào khi mới chôn nhau.
that from birth we must cry?
Đã mang tiếng khóc. Bưng đầu mà ra.
Then we cry over the sadness of the things in this world.
Khóc vì nỗi. Thiết tha sự thế.
Who is the God who has fun gradually turning a sea into a field of mulberry trees?
Ai bài trò. Bãi bể nương dâu.
From the moment our teeth are still white until the age when our hair turns white.
Trắng răng đến thuở bạc đầu.
The deaths and births that follow one another only cause us fear.
Tử. Sinh. Kinh. Cụ. Làm nao mấy lần.
The repetition of fortunate days and hours of distress makes our hair thinner.
Cuộc thành bại, hầu cản mái tóc.
The alternation of successes and disappointments dries up our entrails.
Lớp cùng thông, như đốt buồng gan.
Worries of this dusty world tear our heart and livers.
Bệnh trần đói đoạn tâm can.
However, hunger, like fire, devours our entrails, and cold, like a knife, lacerates our skin.
Lửa cơ đốt ruột, rau hàn cắt da.
In the race for honors and fortune, we walk through grey mud.
Gót danh lợi, bùn pha sắc xám.
And our face, by the heat of the sun browned, takes on the appearance of the bark of the mulberry tree.
Mặt phong trần, nắng ná mùi dâu.
To think of our short life, what pain.
Nghĩ thân phụ thế mà đau.
Foam on an ocean of bitterness, a water plant tossed in a lost port.
Bọt trong bể khổ, bèo đầu bến mê.
So bitter is the taste of human things that the tongue remains numb.
Mùi tục vị, lưỡi tê tân khổ.
The path of life is so rough that we wear our heels on it.
Đương thế đồ, gót dỗ khi khu.
The stormy waves in the harbor break.
Sóng cồn cửa bể nhấp nhô.
A vessel, like the foot of an air bubble, tongue on the surface of the water.
Chiếc thuyền bào ảnh, lô xô gập ghềnh.
Like a child, the author of the universe, too playful.
Trẻ tạo hóa, đành hanh quá ngán.
You who to play yourself, drive the human boat and make it scuttle.
Chết đuối người, trên cạn mà chơi.
In your fiery furnace you forge our destiny.
Lò cứu nung nấu sự đời.
This is the painting of a cloud transforming into a dew, or the image of a man, with changes in mulberry fields.
Bức tranh vân cầu, vẽ người tang thương.
At the worm-eaten doors of the royal theatres, the spiders weave their webs.
Đền Vũ Tạ, nghiện răng cửa mốc.
And in the pavilion of songs, the crickets can be heard during the long watches of the night.
Thúc ca lâu, dê khóc canh dài.
On my road, easy, who has raised thorn bushes,
Đất bằng bỗng dấp trông gai.
who dyed human shadow with the gold of the sunset.
Ai đem nhân ảnh, nhuốm mùi tà dương.
The smell of honors and riches, known to be deceptive bait, attracts people in teams.
Mùi phú quý, như làng sa mã.
The poison charms of glory seduce the nobility.
Bà Vĩnh Hoa, lừa gã công khanh.
From a dream, near the southern branch, we would come out agitated.
Giấc nam khá khéo bất tình.
Our eyes would snap open when we woke up, with empty hands.
Bừng con mắt dậy, thấy mình tay không.
The courtyard, planted with peach and plum trees, is veiled by drops of rain.
Sân đào lý, dâm lồng man mát.
The royal palace bears the dreamy moon on its pinnacle.
Nền đình trung, nguyệt gác mơ màng.
Like a sail sliding on the infinite sea is the plaything of winds and waves,
Cánh buồm bể họ an mênh mang.
whose waves raised by the storm play with the crowd of ambitious people.
Cái phong ba khéo, cợt phường lợi danh.
The right to punish and reward is in the hands of the Creator.
Quyền hòa phúc, trời tranh mất cả.
Who does not reserve his share of freedom for any mortal.
chút tiện nghi, chẳng trả phần ai.
Our world has never been a spinning top in space.
Cái quay búm sẵn trên trời.
And the form of humans walks in it, staggering, like people going away in the night.
Mờ mờ nhân ảnh, như người đi đêm.
Sometimes the plants are yellow and the stones dirty.
Hình mộc thạch, vàng kim ấu cổ.
The colors of birds and fish do not like rain and fear the wind.
Xác cầm ngư, ủ vũ ép phong.
Misery therefore does not extend only to human things.
Tiêu điều nhân sự đã xong.
Nature itself has its upheavals, insects, their metamorphoses.
Sơn hà cũng huyễn, côn trùng cũng hư.
Under this bridge, water flowed. The old landing stage is still there.
Cầu thể thủy, ngồi chơ cổ độ.
An inn, where the autumn wind suffocates, stands before the shadows of the setting sun.
Quán thu phong, đứng rũ tài huy.
The dust penetrates into the mountains and into the valleys.
Phong trần đến cả sơn khê.
And suffering falls away to flowers and plants.
Tang thương đến cả hoa kia cỏ này.
Creation, like a scene, presents itself to our view.
Tuồng huyễn hóa, đã bày ra đấy.
Seeing our fleeting existence, we experience pain.
Kiếp phù sinh, trông thấy mà đau.
After a century, there would have been no memory of our body.
100 năm còn có gì đâu.
That a small ancient mound covered with green wool.
Chẳng qua một nắm, cổ khô xanh gì.
But since endless sorrows succeed sadness and bitterness,
Mùi tục lụy, giường kia cay đắng.
what joy do we find in carrying the burden of existence?
Vui chi mà, đeo đẳng trần duyên.
The mirror of life only reflects such images.
Cái gương nhân sự triền triền.
Isn't it better to consecrate this body to religious life?
Liệu thân này với cơ thiềng phải nào?
Adopt the condition of inhabitant of the Buddha gate.
Thả mượn thú, tiêu dao cửa Phật.
Definitively eradicate from oneself the 7 human passions.
Mối thất tình, quyết dứt cho xong.
Why bother with worries and bother with worry?
Đa mang chi nữa đèo bồng.
What joys does life bring us so that we desire its passions?
Vui gì thể sự, mà mong nhân tình.
May our only friends henceforth be the fresh wind and the clear moon.
Lấy gió mát, trăng thanh kết nghĩa.
Let us devote ourselves to the Buddhist flower and the torch of wisdom and love.
Mượn hoa đàm, đuộc tuệ làm duyên.
Running away from the dust, we would walk with a divinely light step.
Thoát trần một góc thiên nhiên.
Because to live outside of society is to become an immortal on earth.
Cái thân ngoại vật, là tiên trong đời.
My idea was therefore to escape the hands of the great founder.
Ý cũng dắp, ra ngoài đảo trú.
I had the boldness to want to break free from the narrow circle of marriage laws.
Quyết lộn vòng, phu phụ cho cam.
But the sky, who would have thought, opposed these designs.
Ai ngờ trời chẳng cho làm.
He had decided that the peach button would be tied with a red thread.
Quyết đem dây thắm, mà giam bông đào.
So did I have any previous debt to pay?
Hẳn túc trái. Làm sao đây tá?
Or did I have to fulfill a promise made in a previous existence?
Hai tiền nhân, hậu quả xưa kia.
Could the odalisque be some nymph from heaven?
Hai thiên cung có điều gì?
Am I sent to this earth to atone for a crime?
Xuống trần mà trả, nợ đi cho rồi.
Yet see, birds and animals.
Kiện điều thú, là loài vạn vật.
Although they are devoid of reason, love is also subjugated.
Dẫu vô tri, cũng bắt đèo bồng.
As there is a male principle and a female principle, there are husbands and wives.
Có âm dương, có vợ chồng.
And, if heaven and earth do not avoid this circle of unions either,
Dẫu từ thiên địa, cũng vòng phu thê.
it is because the way of marriage is imposed by a supreme master.
Đường tác hợp, trời kia rong ruổi.
How can we get rid of all human sensitivity?
Lọt làm sao, cho khỏi nhân tình.
Let's stop thinking about it. Turn our faces away and be indifferent.
Thôi thôi ngảnh mặt làm thịnh.
Let's see where this sky child has thrown us.
Thử xem con tạo, gieo mình nơi nào.
Old man of the moon, how stupid you showed yourself.
Tay nguyệt lão, khờ sau có một.
Suddenly with sentimental silk, an odalisque saw her feet tied.
Bỗng tơ tình, vướng gót cung phi.
What was the wedding night she spent?
Cái đêm hôm ấy đêm gì?
The shadow of the poplars overlapped that of the camphor trees.
Bóng dương lồng bóng, đầu mi chập trùng.
A beneficent rain watered the buds of the female peony.
Khoa thược diược, mơ mỏng thụy vũ.
The hydewung flower awoke from its sleep in the spring night.
Đóa hải đường, thức ngủ sân tiêu.
The flowering branches in spring greeted the new harem hostess with a smile.
Cảnh xuân hoa trúm chím chào.
The wind caressed the peach and apricot trees.
Gió đông thôi đã, cờ đào ghẹo ngay.
My rainbow-colored skirt floated in the breeze.
Xiêm nghê nọ, tả tơi trước gió.
And under the moon shone my feathered suit.
Áo vũ kia, lấp ló trong trăng.
While charming pieces of music flew away.
Xanh ca mấy khúc vang lừng.
It was thought to see Tati rise to the palace of two.
Cái thân Tây Tử, lên chừng địa to.
The kingfisher's feather mattress gave off its musk scent.
Đệm hồng thúy, thơm tho mùi xạ.
She wore precious stones that shone like the moon.
Bóng bội hoàn, lấp ló trăng thanh.
Like a cloud that resolves into a few raindrops, the feeling of love she received from her marriage was minimal.
Mây mưa mấy giọt chung tình.
A peony branch remained locked up in the spring in a sandalwood palace.
Đình trầm hương khóa, một cảnh mẫu đơn.
The harmonious sounds of the lutes of the palace with the green columns mingled.
Tiếng thánh thót, cung đàn thúy dịch.
To the graceful songs of the flutes of the veranda with the red tiles.
Giọng nỉ non, ngón định đan chỉ.
The more this music rose and the more we were intoxicated.
Càng đàn, càng địch, càng mê.
The more the air became languid, the more our hearts in love.
Càng gay gắt điệu, càng tê tái lòng.
The august figure, barely appeared, has vanished.
Mày ngày lẫn, mặt rồm lồ lộ.
as the bonds of the marriage were formed.
Sắp song song, đôi lứa nhân duyên.
A flower with its fragrance seemed to implore heavenly favor.
Hoa thơm muôn đổi ơn trên.
And willingly, I accepted in this world the reputation of pretty girl.
Cam công mang tiếng, thuyền quyên với đời.
On the 9 steps of the throne spread the sunlight which did not seem very far away.
Trên 9 bể, mặt trời găng tấc.
I waited, however, from morning to night for the spring season.
Chữ xuân riêng, sớm trực, trưa trầu.
If I was loved, like an incense stick that drew fire,
Phải duyên hương lửa cùng nhau.
should I sow mulberry leaves in front of my house to tempt the goats dragging the royal chariot?
Xe dê lọ rác, lá dâu mới vào.
At a certain moment, I hugged apricots and peaches in the palace in the moonlight.
Khi ấp mận, ôm đào gác nguyệt.
At the royal palace it was only laughter under the dew, caresses under the snow.
Lúc cười sương, cợt tuyết đền phong.
An apple blossom gladdened the sight of the sovereign.
Đóa lê ngon mắt cửu trùng.
If I sometimes neglected to paint my eyebrows, my heart was still in love.
Tuy mày điểm nhạt, nhưng lòng cũng siêu.
My beauty were appealing in 100 ways.
Vẻ vư u vật, trăm chiều trải chuốt.
This one prized me like a precious object that one keeps in one's hand.
Lòng quân vương, chi chút trên tay.
The rosy cheeks were drunk with love without the help of any potion.
Má hồng không thuốc mà say.
And his kingdom threatened to fall like a rampart.
Nước kia muốn đổ, thành này muốn long.
In the green garden, a hymn resounded in the silence of the night.
Vườn Tây Uyển, khúc trùng thanh dạ.
On the Lamchuan tower, a song was heard and the flowers of the kiosk were trembling.
Gác lâm xuân, điệu ngã đình hoa.
A moment of effusion passed quickly.
Thừa ân một giấc canh tà.
The orphaned figure lit up, then faded. His ruddy features were growing indecisive.
Tờ mờ nét ngọc, lập lòa vẻ son.
Under the flowered silk mosquito net, the odalisque had received the sovereign.
Trên trướng gấm, chí tôn vỏi vỏi.
I spent hours in private with him.
Những khi nào, gần gũi quân vương.
Even with 1,000 pieces of gold.
Dẫu mà ai có nghìn vàng.
Could anyone buy a moment of this spring dream?
Đâu ai mua được, một chàng mộng xuân.
She laughed afterwards. She frowned like weeping willow leaves.
Thôi cười nọ, lại nhăn may liễu.
She was teasing flowers. Walking. Known on water lilies.
Ghẹo hoa kia, lại nhíu gót sen.
My body bent under the yoke of love.
Thân này uốn éo vì duyên.
And I accepted without regret my reputation as a pretty girl.
Cũng cam một tiếng, thuyền quyên với người.
The orchid only grows in mountainous and deserted places.
Lan mấy đóa, lạc loài sơn giá.
How useless would her perfume be then if no one discovered it?
Uổng mùi hương, vương giả lắm thai.
Considering the handkerchief and the comb, these attributes of a woman,
Gẫm như cân chất chuyên này.
is of nature to compensate mine for having had to hang the canvas on the day of my birth.
Cam công đặt cái, khăn này tắc ơ.
The panel where two birds fly together. What a pleasure to contemplate it.
Tranh tí rực. Nhìn ơi chim nọ.
And the painting of two trees whose branches unite, bearing flowers.
Đậu liên chi. Lần trỏ hoa kia.
In us the union character was engraved.
Chữ đồng lấy đó mà ghi.
On the evening of the 7th we swore to be united 100 years.
Mượn điểu thất tịch. Mà thề bách niên.
A drop of rain has fallen in a majestic palace.
Hạt mưa đã. Lọt miền đài cát.
From this fortunate union, I was as happy as a fish that finds water.
Những mừng thầm. Cả nước duyên may.
I thought that perhaps, over time, the happiness she enjoyed would increase.
Càng lâu càng lắm mùi hai.
And what would be compensated for the pains she had taken in plunging her hands into the bucket of indigo water.
Cho cam công kẻ. Nhúm tay thùng chàm.
But, from year to year, the feeling of love diminished in intensity. Who would have believed it?
Ai ngờ bỗng. Một năm một nhạt.
And that this source of joy would one day dry up.
Nguồn cơn kia. Chẳng tát mà vơi.
In its changes, the celestial mechanism is mysterious.
Thôi gì đâu biết cơ trời.
Unexpectedly, a woman became a widow.
Bỗng không mà hóa. Ra người vĩ vong.
The royal torch is so fair and so smart.
Đuốc vương gia. Chí công là thế.
Whose light does not know how to reach dark places.
Chẳng soi cho. Đến khóe âm nhai.
Among the thousands of pink and red flowers struggling with freshness.
Muôn hồng nghìn tiết đua tươi.
The master of spring looks at it and picks only one or two within reach.
Chùa Xuân nhìn hái. Một hai bông gần.
In places frequented by other fishermen, it is not easy to catch fish.
Vốn đã biết. Cái thân câu trõ.
Fish that are satiated with prey are not easily attracted to bait.
Cá no mồi. Cũng khó nhử lên.
When 3,000 swallows it gives shelter.
Ngắn thai cái én 3.000.
How could I hope to land on the branch of a large tree so beset?
Một cây cù mộp. Biết chen cành nào.
Yet, confident in my rosy cheeks.
Xong đã cậy. Má đào tròn chót.
I had hoped that fate would be more favorable to me than to others.
Hẳn duyên tươi. Phận tốt hơn người.
She was unaware of the divine will which plays with humans.
Nào hai con tạo trêu ngươi.
And no sooner had the sun entered the dark cave than it was immediately veiled.
Hang sâu chút hé. Mặt trời lại dâm.
In the palace of the cinnamon tree, where his shadow was lonely.
Trong cung quế. Âm thầm chiếc bóng.
I spent the 5 watches of the night in anxious and vain wait.
Đêm 5 canh. Trông ngóng lần lần.
What have I done to you, O Master of Spring?
Khoảnh làm chi bày chúa xuân.
So that having enjoyed the flower, to the point of withering it, you then abandon it.
Chơi hai trò giữa. Nhụy dần lại thôi.
On a tower open to the moon, I stood sometimes standing, sometimes seated, while the rain resounded in the silence of the night.
Lầu đãi nguyệt. Đứng ngồi dạ vũ.
I was taking the cool up there. I would fall asleep and wake up, lulled by the autumn wind.
Gác thừa lương. Thức ngủ thu phong.
The peppery room was cold as copper.
Phòng tiêu lạnh ngắt như đồng.
The mirror of the phoenix is broken into two pieces. The bond of union is torn into two pieces.
Gương loan bẻ nữa. Giải đồng xẻ đôi.
Morning or evening, I fall asleep overwhelmed with sadness.
Chiều ủ dột. Giấc may trưa sớm.
And awakens my uncertain soul like the flight of a butterfly.
Vẻ bâng khuâng. Hồn bướm vẩn vơ.
In the retired palace, it is icy solitude.
Thâm khuê vắng ngắt như tờ.
The wind filters under the pearl door. The dew clings to the ivory blinds.
Cửa trâu gió lọt. Rèm ngả sương reo.
In places, the moss has erased the ruts dug by the phoenix tank.
Ngấn phượng liễn. Tròm rêu lỗ chỗ.
Wild grass covers the tracks left by the goat cart.
Dấu dương xa. Đám cỏ quanh co.
The evenings are sad like an autumn landscape. At the town palace.
Lầu tần chiều nhạt vẻ thu.
On the bolster embroidered with phoenix. Snow accumulates on the cover decorated with dragons. The frost is piling up.
Gối loan tuyết đóng. Chăn cụ da đông.
During the 6 shifts of the day, the wild goose messenger of news remains invisible.
Ngày 6 khác. Tên mong nhạn vắng.
During the 5 watches of the night, only the sound of bells disturbs the silence.
Đêm 5 canh. Tiếng lắng chuông rền.
How cold we slept alone in our bed.
Lạnh lùng thay giấc, cô miên.
The scents of incense have gone. The light of the lamp fades.
Mùi hương tịch mịch. Bóng đèn thâm u.
Dolent. I don't even look at the pictures representing pretty women anymore.
Tranh biếng ngắm. Trong đồ tố nữ.
And my sad face turns only to the king's majestic palace.
Mặt buồn trông. Trên cửa nghiêm lâu.
Alone. We stood up. Ashamed seated. We were sad.
Một mình đứng tủi ngồi sầu.
I entrust my sadness to the moon. The flowers are witnesses of my pain.
Đã than với nguyệt. Lại giàu với hoa.
The heart is consumed with grief repeating my memories.
Buồn mọi nỗi. Lòng đã khắc khoải.
I am so tired of life that my walk is shaky.
Ngàn trăm chiều. Bước lại ngẩn ngơ.
Why did the butterfly disdain this flower?
Hoa này bướm nở thờ ơ.
Leaving the bud to wither. Allowing the corolla to wither.
Để gầy bông thắm. Để sơ nhụy vàng.
During the 5 watches of the night, I leaned against the wall of cinnamon.
Đêm 5 canh. Lần nương bách quế.
Who left me in the sadness that could kill her?
Cái buồn này. Ai dễ giết nhau.
Death does not come from a sword.
Giết nhau bằng cái lưu cầu.
With black sadness, I could die. Incredible cruelty.
Giết nhau bằng cái. U sầu độc chưa.
O old man of the moon, if you had not tied the threads for me, what would it matter to me?
Tay nguyệt lão. Chẳng xe thì chớ.
He had made this connection. In such an unfortunate way.
Xe thế này. Có dở dang không?
With a daring hand, one would like to break it.
Đang tay muốn dứt thòng.
I would like, in spite of it, to overturn the room with the peppered walls and run away.
Bực mình muốn đạp. Tiêu phòng mà ra.
Look in the paths of the flower garden where I walked again last year.
Nào lối dạo, vườn hoa năm ngoái.
I picked a pink peach blossom. It is always fresh.
Đóa hồng đào, hái buổi còn xanh.
At the Pluvonic Palace as well as at the Oán Pavilion.
Trên gác phượng, dưới lầu oanh.
The two pillows, which would be the delight of the immortals, were still there, placed next to each other.
Gối du tiên hãi, rành rành song song.
When was the time when we leaned on the tan tower?
Nào lúc tựa, lầu tần hôm nọ.
A still young branch of weeping willow was snapped.
Cành liễu mảnh, bẻ thủa đương tơ.
Sometimes under the mosquito net shining with precious stones, sometimes behind the ivory blind, we stood.
Khi chướng ngọc, lúc rèm ngà.
The spring dress still had these memories.
Mảnh xuân y hãi, sở sở dấu phong.
And now I'm just an abandoned heart.
Bây giờ đã, ra lòng ruồng rẫy.
A flower swept away some water.
Để thân này, nước chảy hoa trôi.
Oh heavens, why so much skill in persecuting humans?
Hóa công sau khéo trêu người.
A lamp that shone as the moon leaned toward the horizon, gave her a taste of a fleeting life.
Bóng đèn tảng nguyệt, nhử mùi ký sinh.
Is sadder to watch than the fall of a leaf under the rays of the moon.
Cảnh hoa lạc, nguyệt minh dương ấy.
The sadness of the fires of the setting sun burns my faithful heart.
Lửa hoàng hôn, như trái tấm son.
And the twilights follow one another.
Hoàng hôn thôi lại hôn hoàng.
The sight of the moon and the flowers should make me happy from them. However, comes an increased sadness.
Nguyệt hoa thôi lại, thêm buồn nguyệt hoa.
We knew the causes no one looks for the moon that leans towards the horizon.
Buồn vì nỗi, nguyệt tải ai trọng.
Sad, because no one is still looking at a flower that has fallen from the tree.
Buồn vì điều, hoa rụng ai nhìn.
Boredom is added to the monotony of a landscape.
Tình buồn cảnh lại vô duyên.
How a sorry landscape affects our heart.
Tình trong cảnh ấy, cảnh bên tình này.
As the gusts shake the green trees.
Khi trận gió, lung lai cảnh bí.
When in the distance resound the confused cries of crickets.
Nghe rì rào, tiếng mách ngoài xa.
Dreamily, we thought we heard the sound of a coming chariot.
Mơ hồ nghĩ tiếng xe ra.
We then shone a bundle of incense, already less odorous, and we warmed his torn dresses.
Đốt phong hương hà, mà hơ áo tàn.
It was the screeching of those murmuring insects.
Ai ngờ tiếng, dễ ran rí rỉ.
Their lamentations in the fall were directed at women alone in their room.
Giọng bi thu, gọi kẻ cô phòng.
In this solitary retreat where no noise reaches me.
Vắng tanh nào thấy vân mộng.
It was cold in front of the window. Loose fireflies fluttered.
Hơi thê lương lạnh, ngắt song phi huỳnh.
As the moon's rays glide over the ridge of the roofs.
Khi bóng thỏ, chênh vênh trước nóc.
Resounding voices press the ear.
Nghe vang lừng, tiếng rục bên tai.
I thought I was receiving a call from the sovereign.
Dè chừng nghĩ tiếng tiểu đòi.
I immediately grabbed the jar of old-fashioned makeup to fill the wrinkles on my cheeks.
Nghiêng bình phấn mốt, mà rồi má nheo.
Alas, it's just the sorry cuckoo cries.
Ai ngờ tiếng quên kêu ra giả.
Mournful complaint that makes the widow cry in her room.
Điệu thương xuân, khóc ả sương khuê.
To the cold of loneliness is added sadness.
Lạnh lùng nào thấy u ê.
In the air steeped in sadness, the flowers that had fallen to the pavement exhaled their scent.
Khí bi thương sực, nức hè lạc hoa.
Bursts of laughter come from the withdrawn palace and seem to me in irony.
Tiếng thủy điện, cười già ra gắt.
Royal favor first lively, weakens later.
Mùi quyển môn, thắm dấp nên phai.
If we had known the miseries of this place full of grandeur,
Nghĩ nên tiếng cửa quyển ôi.
I would have preferred not to know this favorite life.
Thì thon thả vậy, cũng thôi một đời.
If I had known early that heaven wanted to impose this burden on me,
Vì sớm biết, lòng trời đeo đẳng.
I would not have accepted my misery at any price.
Dẫu thuê tiền, cũng chẳng buồn tênh.
The more I think about my fate, the more pitiful it appears to me.
Nghĩ mình lại ngán cho mình.
Poor flower already separated from its branch.
Cái hoa đã chót, gieo cảnh biết sau.
Tasty dishes are sought after, but are difficult to swallow.
Miếng cao lương, phong lưu nhưng lợp.
While simpler dishes remain pleasant to the taste.
Mùi hoác lê, thanh đạm mà ngon.
With a husband all life in a humble dwelling.
Cùng nhau một giấc hoành môn.
With many children of all ages and a modest family life. We are happy.
Lao nhau díu dít, cọ con cũng tình.
If I had known that my fate had to be what it is today,
Mình có biết, phận mình ra thế.
I would have rejected this joining.
Giải quyết điều, óe óe làm chi.
Wouldn't it have been better for the simple life of the fields?
Thả rằng cục kịch nhà quê.
There. At least we would have appreciated this flower.
Dẫu lòng nũng nịu, nguyệt kia hoa này.
In my solitude I see the shadow of the rabbit grow pale.
Chiều tịch mịt, đã gầy bóng thỏ.
At the end of the night when the light of the lamp fades.
Vẻ tiêu tao, lại võ hoa đèn.
I would like to sing and laugh to dispel my sorrow.
Muốn đem ca tiếu giải phiền.
But the laughter turns to tears. The songs end in sobs.
Cười nên tiếng khóc, hát nên giọng sầu.
The flames of chaste desire devoured my soul, removing the freshness of my eyebrows.
Ngọn tâm hỏa, đốt dầu nét liễu.
Bitter tears wash away the blush from my cheeks.
Giọt hồng băng, thấm ráo làn son.
My desolation affects the smallest things.
Dơ buồn đến thú còn con.
The tea of the first infusion seems bitter to me, and the smoke of 2 sticks of incense too heavy.
Trà chuyên nước nhất, hương dồn khói đôi.
The sun seemed very near.
Trong gang tấc, mặt trời xa mấy.
How did I deserve my so miserable lot?
Phận hẩm hiu, ngường ấy vì đâu.
They are separated then go spouses.
Sinh ly đòi rất thời ngâu.
And yet they meet at least once a year.
Một năm còn thấy, mặt nhau một lần.
Even more so. I who belong to the society of pretty women.
Huống chi cũng, lạm phần son phấn.
I shouldn't be alone in my room for years and years.
Luống 5 năm, trực phận buồng không.
Why overwhelm me with such misfortune, O throne of the 9 degrees?
Khéo vô duyên với cửu trùng.
What purple can ever repaint my marriage and restore its freshness?
Thắm nào nhuộm lại, thòng cho tươi.
In the royal garden the flower smiles in the sunlight.
Vườn thượng uyển, hoa cười với nắng.
Who then prevents the bee from coming there?
Lối đi về, ai chẳng chiều ong.
By the shady and shallow stream.
Doảnh nhâm một dải nôm nông.
The shadow of the poplar stretched over one of its banks.
Bóng dương bên ấy, đứng trông bên này.
Sad. We consoled ourselves in front of the spectacles of nature.
Tình dầu dĩ, khôn khuây nhĩ mục.
And in my deserted room, desire grips me.
Trống phòng không, như dục mây mưa.
When I dream of the nights of old,
Giấc chiêm bao những đêm xưa.
I still hope, panting, as, after a long drought, one longs for a drop of rain.
Giọt mưa cửu hạt, còn mơ đến rài.
On the 9-degree throne, does he even know?
Trên 9 bệ, có 2 trăng nhé.
Why did he leave a woman in the cold?
Khách quần thoa, mà để lạnh lùng.
O east wind, why do you hate me so much?
Thù nhau chi hỡi đông phong.
Abandoned in a corner of the garden, a peach flower is burnt by the sun.
Góc vườn dãi nắng, cầm bông hoa đào.
Hand of the Creator, why be so cruel?
Tay tạo hóa, cỡ sao mà độc.
And why did you force me, out of play, to enter the golden palace?
Buộc người vào, kim ốc mà chơi.
Sitting, my forehead resting on my arm, I think about the things of life.
Chống tay ngồi ngẫm sự đời.
And, to ease my pain, that I may utter a long cry.
Muốn kêu một tiếng, cho giải kẻo căm.
My heart is overwhelmed with such sadness.
Lòng ngán ngẩm, buồn tênh mọi nỗi.
How my feelings are mixed up like silk threads.
Khúc sầu chàng, bối rối giường tơ.
The lamp which lit up the nights of yesteryear in the bridal chamber still casts its glow.
Ngọn đèn phỏng động đêm xưa.
And the flowers on the same stalk had not yet withered.
Chòm hoa tịnh, đế chơi chơi chưa tàn.
The sovereign's heart was too fickle.
Mà lượng thánh, đa đoan kíp mấy.
Why did he suddenly reject me, his slave, without cause?
Bỗng ra lòng, rún rẩy vì đâu.
Old servant who faithfully informs him.
Bó già to nỗi xưa sau.
How did you not represent this situation to the king?
Chẳng đem nỗi ấy, mà tâu ngự cùng.
Alone, on this cold night of wind and rain.
Đem phong vũ, lạnh lùng có một.
I hear the rain droplets pounding the banana leaves as if to mark the night before.
Giọt ba tiêu, thánh thót cầm canh.
Towards the wall flickers the glow of a firefly.
Bên tường thấp thoáng bóng huỳnh.
The partition is covered with dew and uncertain green light trembles.
Vách xương nghi ngút, đèn xanh lờ mờ.
My eyes are not yet closed, and yet the water clock is already empty.
Mắt chưa nhắm, đồng hồ đã cạn.
Of all this melancholy, I am weary.
Cảnh tiêu điều, ngau ngán giường bao.
With the single word sadness, how to qualify such sadness?
Buồn này mới gọi buồn sao.
What feelings my soul was restless in a night full of memories of the past.
Một đêm nhớ cảnh, biết bao nhiêu tình.
The shadow of a horse passed my blinds in an instant.
Bóng câu thoáng, bên mành mấy nỗi.
This sad makeup and this sad mirror. How to finish with them?
Những hương sầu, phấn tủi sao xong.
But if the hour ever comes when I will be called again to the 9-degree throne,
Phòng khi động đến cửu trùng.
will I still have my rosy cheeks of before?
Giữ sao cho được, má hồng như xưa.
The end.
Hết.